All right, guys, welcome to another Zygrene Car Talk. I think it's been, last time we did one together was
It's been a minute.
8 months ago. We've got some great guests for you guys today. We are joined by Kevin from the Jubbal and Cars YouTube channel, and we have
Hello.
Silverback Jack,
Hello.
Silverback Jack.
aka the less savage half of SavageGeese.
Yes. Sadly, Mark is not here. He is back in Illinois. He flies into your part of California. Tomorrow, we're here with our friends at Lose It once again.
Nice.
I'm glad to be here. I've been talking to you on and off on the internet now for a little bit. And this is
Few
my
months, yeah.
first time actually really getting to meet you. And you're doing my laundry, which is incredible.
If there's noise in the background, it's my laundry machine in the back doing this guy's dirty Monterey laundry.
Hello. And you have a dog. So
And we've got Mocha here.
Hi.
I'm
Let's-
just waiting to see how long it takes for B58 to come up in this conversation.
B58.
Naturally.
So we're going to start
B58
with
dogs.
history of our own garages, and then
Okay.
we'll kind of take it from there.
I started off with a 2013 Scion FRS,
Classy.
then 22 GR86 because I just love the platform so much. Then,
Mention
Awesome.
how long you've owned the cars for, too.
so FRS was 9 years, GR86 was a year and a half. CX50 now, I got soon after the GR86. That's when I started having two cars, and that was, I think, almost 2 years. And Lotus Emira.
Which you just broke in.
I just finished break-in like last month, and I'm getting a Miata this week.
So what are the use cases for each car that you currently have? Let's say?
I guess the Emira is mostly going to be like the weekend date car. The Miata should be the track car. I'm going to build it out a little bit, and the 650 is the daily.
Perfect. 3-car garage.
There you go.
So do you want to start from the very beginning or like recently?
Uh,
How far back do you want me to go?
I mean, what's the volume of cars you think you've owned?
Over 10.
You can go through over 10.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. First car was a Mark 6 GTI. And then from there, I went to a 2013 or 14 BRZ. That's actually how I met Mark.
Hell yeah. I started following SavageGeese because of his initial FRS content from way back.
I used his video to do my camper bolts on my BRZ.
Nice, nice.
That's going to make Mark feel very old. Mark, you're welcome. From there, I got a Acura TL, which I sort of used as like the beater. Not that the BRZ is an incredibly nice car, but if I'm going to get something all screwed up on a college campus, it's going to be a 03 TL Type S.
Ooh, classy.
From that, yeah, classy. I know you're a Honda boy.
Uh-huh.
Where did I go from there? I had the BRZ. Then I got a 2015 Mustang GT Performance Pack. I had that for probably the most miles of any car I've owned.
S550?
S550. I put 7,000 miles on it on track and an autocross. I
Wow.
beat the piss out of that poor car. That's why I love Mustangs. So much.
Reliable?
Yeah, I initially had a bad synchro on the MT82, but it happened with like 800 miles. It was a manufacturing defect.
Oh, okay.
Then nothing, didn't burn oil, never had a gearbox problem. I popped the clutch as you do. I learned to hate modifying cars doing that, but I totally ruined that thing like everybody does. I had JRZs.
JRZ's on a Mustang GT.
Yeah,
Nice.
and it did not do wonders for the geometry of that car. It was a very early adopter for that kit and just wasn't great. I had in between, I'd always buy something again, like the TL that I would cycle through that sort of was I hate to say disposable because it's still money, but a car that you don't care quite about a bit as much about, particularly being out in the Midwest. It snows, there's salt, there's everything else that happens. So I had a 2011 WRX that I bought as a roller, put a motor in it. That's where I learned to hate Subarus. I had a E90 328i and a E36, which I bought with Mark and my now fiance for $2,000. It was a 1990 E36 325i manual.
Nice.
The reason I bought it, I found it on Craigslist. It had a Burberry headliner, so a tartan headliner. And I am not a smart man. And I went, yes.
Yes.
When I graduated school, I bought a C7 Grand Sport, which was my car for a couple years. And in between there, I think I had a Mark 7 GTI. I revisited my GTI, which was not reliable as a kid. It was not reliable later either.
How many times did you have to do a carbon cleanup on that?
I never had that issue.
Really?
My GTI was a lemon, my first car. It had wiring harness problems that the dealer couldn't figure out, so it would randomly just shut off on the highway. And it would happen.
That happened to my A3, which has the same engine.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Same era, 2012?
2011.
Yeah, so same era. I'm sure they're built in different factories, but we had all sorts of weird problems with that. I'm like, but I loved it, right? It's your high school car. You want to revisit it. I got it again, and both Mark and my fiance were like, "This is a bad idea. You're not going to like it. don't
Were they
revisit."
right?
I did enjoy it initially, and then I had all the Volkswagen problems. My sunroof literally left the car. There's a sunroof surround on certain GTIs. It's like a Mark 7s. It's like a black plastic.
Yeah.
My surround, literally just driving down the highway, flew off the roof. Yeah, it was
I thought like the glass actually.
no,
fell
there's
off.
like
That
a little
would be-
plastic surround.
Okay.
Trying to think what else. I had water pump problems like everybody had with that
Yeah.
car. In somewhere in there as well, I had an '08 Civic Si, another like beater I keep for a couple
Ooh.
months.
With the K20.
If there's a really early YouTube video that Mark and I did together where we drove out to the auto show, and because Mark can't read a calendar, the Detroit Auto Show, we showed up on the wrong day, which is the best part about all of this. We drove out and it was a sedan '08 Si. Shit. I mean, so currently, I'm sure I'm missing something in there. I have a C8 Z06 with Z07. We have a GR Corolla, which we're doing through a series. That replaced the last car I had that was a series car, the GR86, which I know you probably have mixed feelings on that car as you got rid of yours. But you and I, probably me more so than you, are kind of in a weird spot with cars because I get press cars.
Yeah.
My desire, my need for a practical do everything car is that I personally own is not all that common. We
You
do
got a
want,
hatchback. You're good.
yeah. GR Corolla actually, if you don't use the back seat like as it folded down, has the same or less amount of space than a C8.
If you-
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Wow.
I shot a
Because with those seats up, there is essentially no trunk
trunk.
space.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's got less space than a usable space for like camera gear and the way
Well,
we
the
stack
C8
everything.
fits like a set of golf clubs. Right?
Yeah, of course. It's the
Hence
champion
the
of Bowling Green. I need to
beautiful-
tell you
The
that.
beautiful,
beautiful
rear on that
booty.
thing.
Well, yeah, it's different. We have a couple long termers that we cycle through. Mark, he currently has an X7, has an FL5, an S2000. Of course, we have a Murano Cross Cabriolet as a company
Can't forget
vehicle.
that one.
The
Yeah.
goated
Yeah,
vehicle.
the best vehicle. We have a long-term Honda Pilot, and we have a long-term CX-50. We have a year with a Lucid.
Mm,
So it's
okay.
a weird fleet at the SavageGeese side of things,
Yeah.
but everything gets a lot of miles put on it, and it's a nice mix of everything.
Dude, I'm glad I went first. I feel like following you guys. You also have a really
Yeah,
nice
what do you own,
history.
sir?
I have a shit ton of cars.
Yeah, let's hear
let's
it.
see. My very first car in college was a '97 Civic LX, just a regular automatic, whatever.
Yep.
It was my dad's old car.
Is that an EM1 generation?
Is from the same generation as
Okay,
the
yeah.
EM1, which is
Okay,
funny because I later had an EM1 Civic Si. But then my first car out of college was that 2011 Audi A3, which is basically a Mark 6 GTI. Horribly unreliable car. Owned it for like 15K miles.
Yeah.
It died on me like 3 times. It died on me while it was being test driven by a potential buyer. Obviously, they didn't buy the car at that point. I actually had to call a tow truck and have my roommate come pick those people up.
That's
Take
deeply
them back to
unfortunate.
their house. Yeah. Let's see. Then I bought my first rear-wheel drive car, which was an S2000. My
And then
first
the addiction was
S2000.
born.
The addiction was immediately born.
Which gen?
04 AP2. So
Same model
cable
years.
throttle.
Yeah, same model years. I think Mark's currently.
Oh, he has an 04?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure so.
Oh, okay.
04, 05 is the cable throttle.
That's
last
right.
of the. Yeah.
Before they went drive-by-wire, yeah. And then that was my track car. And then I had a hand-me-down from my parents, which was really cool because I actually flew all the way out to Texas just to drive this car back to California. It was a 2011 Mercedes E350. It was by far the nicest car.
So round headlights still, right?
No, it was the updated,
Oh, okay.
like the more angular
the
ones.
next gen.
Yeah. The nicest car I had ever owned at that point, and still to this day. And yet, I almost crashed driving that car so many times because I felt like I literally almost fell asleep. It was so boring, and I realized I'm just not cut out for luxury car life. So I sold that and got a yellow AP1 S2000. Because at that point, I already sold my other S2000. So I dailied a yellow.
You've
janky
earned that
AP1.
title of Mr. S2000.
I have.
You have definitely
have.
earned it.
And then let's see. After that, I bought the EM1 Civic Si.
Was that your daily?
That was my
versus-
daily. Yes.
Now, during this time, are you 2-car garage, 1?
2-car garage.
Okay.
S2000 and Mercedes. Oh, of course. I bought the NSX. That was January of 2017. And I owned that and the AP1 S2000. And then I got a E39 BMW 540i M Sport
Oh,
manual.
very cool.
Yeah. Complete piece of shit car.
Oh, all right.
I paid $7,700 for it. In a year and a half of ownership, I spent probably another 15 on it.
But you being out here, the body was straight, right?
The body was straight, yeah. And then I sold it on Bring a Trailer. My only Bring a Trailer experience. Sold it for $6,000. Market value for that car actually I think was about double that. But people, it's like after that auction ended, people started commenting and being like, "What just happened?" I was at work. I got busy in a meeting and I forgot to bid, and then I came back and saw that it sold for $6,000.
So you did a no reserve.
Big mistake.
Ouch.
Big mistake. And at that time, $6,000 versus $12,000 was like a sizable difference to me.
But
Still is
regardless,
now.
still, yeah,
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 but
it's
at
a
that
big
time, it
deal.
was like a significant percentage of my net
Yeah, it would be a
worth.
huge gut punch. For
Yeah,
Sure.
yeah. And
Oh, congratulations! Whoever bought that car.
big time.
Yeah.
I told that guy the moment he came over to pick up the keys, I was like, let's not kid ourselves here. You got a freaking great deal. He was like, yeah. And then where did I go from there? The S2000 got wrecked in front of my house. And then I picked
Is
up
that a California experience? Someone.
Yeah, it was just like an intersection right in front of my house. I used to live in downtown San Jose, not the greatest area. People just don't drive well there. So then I picked up my first Porsche, which is a 987.1 Cayman S. Took it to the track once. Second session, blew the AOS. Thought I blew the motor.
I'm sure that was a exciting moment
That
for you.
it was a major oh shit moment because I knew like a new motor in that car would.
Sorry, dot one or dot two?
Dot one.
Dot one. Okay.
Didn't learn my lesson. Sold that car and bought a 997.1 Carrera, base Carrera. Only reason I bought it is because it had a GT3 body kit, and I wanted a GT3, and this was like 1/5 the price of a GT3.
The Porsche.
The Porsche
Porsche.
with 2 O's, yeah. I spent something like 25 grand fixing that car, not upgrading it, just fixing stupid things that weren't working. And then finally I learned my lesson, got rid of that thing, and bought my first brand new car ever, which was a 2022 BRZ. And then
That was your first new car,
first new car ever.
which was pretty recent.
3 years ago, yeah. And then, of course, now I have the Integra Type S.
Good collection of cars, sir.
It's been quite a journey. So where I want to go with this now is, where do you guys see your garages in, let's say, the next 3 to 5 years? And what I mean specifically is, if you can have 3 cars,
Assuming I'm not homeless in 3 to 5 years.
assuming you're not home,
All right.
assuming you're on your current trajectory financially, whatever that may be, and you can have 3 cars, 1 track car, 1 daily driver,
She's
and
not.
1
She's
sort
not
of
interested in
weekend
this
car.
conversation.
She's clearly not interested. Okay, go over there.
All right, after you, sir. Where do you see your cars?
So weekend, daily, track.
ND, NC, and NB.
3 Miatas. Okay.
Miata's always the answer.
Or is your current garage already?
No. I think I would love to have an FR, an MR, and an RR. I think so you're saying 5 years? I'm trying to think like what my budget would be in 5 years, hopefully.
Aspirational.
Aspirationally. I'd say a 997.2 GT3 for my
Yes.
RR. I know we've had discussions about 997.2 versus 991.2.
Yeah.
I want that extra experience, especially that steering of the 991.
Hydraulics.
997.2, yeah. For FR, I've been obsessed, as you know, from our group chats.
Yeah.
V8 Vantage, fucking love that thing.
The 4.7 liter, right?
The 4.7, but there's also like all these little changes they're making over the years. So I think it has to be like a 2012 plus. And so they made some additional changes to the suspension and such. We drove Stevens in North Carolina, and his was like such money, such money. And then MR, I do love the Amira, but if there's a more hardcore version of the Amira that comes out in the future,
Yeah,
probably that.
fair.
You guys have thought this through a lot more deeply than I have. Man.
To be honest, this changes week to week. Like
Okay.
the,
Yeah,
the
yeah, yeah.
Vantage wouldn't have even been this answer a month ago.
I think I am far more dead inside than both of you guys are. As I think Mark and he thinks we've driven more than this because there are certain cars we don't do videos on. We do press trips, we drive different trims. I think the last 5 years that I've been doing this with him full time, I think we've driven like something like 400 cars.
Wow.
When you answer this question, though, this is like assuming since you are getting press vehicles and
Yeah.
these long-term loaners frequently, does that
My dream garage in the next couple years, given my personal situation and my family and whatever, I would want a 4-door of some sort. And for me, the practical 4-door would either be a CT4V Blackwing or CT5V Blackwing. I also I love the way the F80 generation M3 looks.
Yeah.
But I don't think they're that great of a car. Given how much people are asking for manuals, I really want my sedan to be a manual
Sure.
or whatever my 4-door everyday car is.
You gotta go CT5E Blackwing.
I don't disagree with you. It's just the money factor. The
Yeah.
thought of rolling in like $400,000 or $500,000 in a garage, just sitting there,
Fair.
is horrifying to me and bankrupting. The sports car.
one thing I gotta respect is that the first car you mentioned is practical and a 4-door. And if you notice my answer, there's no
All
fourth.
3 of your answers.
The girlfriend will have a practical vehicle. There's my answer for the fourth.
Fair point. For me, I like you. I have a dog. Being able to carry the pet with me to go places and my fiance to go places is I'm finding more valuable in recent years. Something that Mark Warmate would happen. That
You're not even 30 yet.
I know.
What's wrong with you?
I know. The fun car is something that to me fun immediately means something I can take to the track. Where we live in Illinois, outside of the farm road that you guys all see, it's not really great driving roads. It's you told me earlier at dinner your roads suck, and it's absolutely true. The roads by us are not great.
At least that farm road's like always empty.
Yeah, and the farmers out there, the 5 of them that watch, thank you. So my choices in cars, as some of the reps that I really respect tell me, is a reflection of where I live. So for me, I want a car to either be really comfortable on the highway, eat up miles, have a good audio system, kind of be engaging in the winter months, get some sideways out of it if no one's paying attention, slide it around a bit. Or I want something that's really, really competent on the track and, makes me laugh. I'm a little different. I used to, when I was younger, when I didn't do this as much or as my full-time job, I do a lot of time trials. I liked autocross. I liked the little bit of the competition element. I think doing this as much as I currently do.
You want to check that real quick?
Yeah, no worries.
Oh, sorry, that's my my blood sugar monitor.
So because of where I live and where Mark and I, live, and I think one of my reps that I really value, repping one of the OEMs said this, is the way we like cars is a direct correlation to how we drive and where we live. So in my case, because there are no fun back roads, when I'm just putting around in traffic, I want a car to be quiet, make me laugh, or be really, really comfortable and basically be the exact opposite of what you want in your daily driver.
Sure.
Because your roads are great here. Mine is like I-90, 290 in Chicago. You can drive basically 90, 80, 100 miles an hour if you're ballsy. But the actual driving experience, the only reason you're driving quickly is so you can get to your next destination quickly, not because it's a particularly thrilling thing to be driving through Illinois or in the Chicagoland area. So the other side of cars, something I really appreciate, is like full track stuff. So the street side of things, doesn't matter to me as much. So whatever I buy as my fun car or my weekend track car, I really love the Z06 I own currently. I mean, we've done a lot of videos on it, so if anyone cares, they can see what I don't like about it there. The only thing I can honestly see myself replacing it with, given its price point, is a 992.1 or 992.2 GT3.
Mm.
I love the 997. I love that car. We Getting up to Monterey, we drove a 997.1, 997.2, a 993 and a 996 GT3 and a 991.1, not GT3, sorry, turbo.
Yeah.
Driving up here, I got to experience all those cars, and I agree that I think the older cars are much better on the street because you get a lot through steering and you feel more through the chassis. But on track, I so value the double wishbone front end of the cars. Have
I
you
was just
driven
gonna
it?
say I have
Yeah, and
just
it's
on track like 5 laps. It was
mind-boggling,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, it's such an amazing car to drive quickly on the track that that's something I'd like to be able to buy. It's obviously incredibly expensive. Thus, whatever my daily, I'm willing to make cheaper versus
Yeah.
like CT4 versus CT5V. And then that third car, there's something endlessly charming about something old and kind of crappy. So some sort of classic car. I would love an
Mm.
NSX. I actually bid on one a while ago, which
Oh.
that is not a crappy car. But the idea of owning something that's sort of whimsical that I
Mine
don't.
doesn't start right now, so you can call it crappy.
No, when I say crappy, I'm talking about like assuming my family doesn't disown me for this, I'd love like a 1979 Trans Am, like
Oh.
or like a 60s Jag sedan, something like
Fuck yeah,
weird
dude.
and quirky and funny.
Love that.
Because everything's so serious. All the sports cars are so serious that if I get to drive something that makes me smile, challenges me in certain ways. If it doesn't always start, but if it doesn't, it's not the end of the world. That's sort of what I look for.
Dude, I'm so impressed by how thoughtful that response was. You know,
I pulled that one on my ass.
the
but
reasons why you value these. I know a guy, or I should say, I know of a guy in Texas who has all these amazing sports cars, and then he has like his daily, which I think is like a Raptor or something. Everything else is a sports car. He's like, yeah, unless I need to go and pick up something large from Home Depot or whatever, I'm driving one of my sports cars for my errands, for my daily, for my everything. I'm like, you know what? I want to be like you when I grow up. So that's kind of what I aspire to do when I get older. But I also realize that the reality of doing that is probably very different than the idea I have in my head.
it might be different because I get to drive so many vehicles as press vehicles that I get my jollies out pretty quickly. Mark will probably tell you the same thing if he was here. We're in and out of so many great cars to drive that, unlike a lot of the viewers who will never get that experience, I get to experience things like an STO or a new GT3 RS or a 4RS or a Manti 4RS or Z06's E-Race. I get to drive all these cars on track or for a week as a press loan that I don't necessarily always need. I'm not chasing that experience.
You get that fix.
So
Which, by the way, I think I'm not sure this is a question for later, but just how the reviewing process has changed all of our perspectives on cars.
It is, but we'll save that.
Because I do that, I don't feel like there are certain cars I need to buy.
Where'd we leave off?
I have no idea. my mental.
Okay, let's speed things up a bit.
It's not your fault. It's mine. It's been up for a long time.
That's fine. All right, so my realistic dream garage in the next, say, 5 years. Well, NSX is staying. That's going to be my weekend car. I've dumped too much time and energy and money.
What year is
into
your
it.
NSX? I apologize.
91.
Oh, one of the best.
OG.
Probably the first 4 years of the best years.
Yeah, and I just threw T37s on it. It's got the Olins.
As
it's
you
got
do.
the short gears, the LS. Like, it's just I need to fully experience that car.
I'm fully sad that car is broken because that would be a vehicle I'd ask to drive.
It started up as of like a week ago, so you came a week too late. And I guess so for my daily, I gave it a little bit of thought to this, and this is not the answer I would have given like 2 years ago, but I'd actually go for an Audi RS6 Avant.
Oh.
Kind of similar to like my Integra Type S. It's like a very practical car, lots of cargo space, new, good tech, fast, not horribly terrible on gas. And just it's something I could definitely see myself driving every day. Like I drove that, and then I drove F90 M5 on the same road, and the RS6 was just so far above the M5 in terms of dynamics, comfort. I like the interior better. I think out of all like that mid-size sedan slash wagon class of cars currently, it's my favorite. And then track car would have to be an FR because I'm just a junkie for front engine rear drive dynamics. MR is still not quite my thing. Just need more seat time probably, but I would love to have a supercharged S2000. I've only driven 2, maybe 3, but every time I drive one, it's like, this is the level of power that this chassis can handle.
It would have felt wrong if you didn't have S2000
Right?
somewhere in there.
I know. It won't be.
I feel bad that I'm here and not Mark, because you two could talk about your
Talk
love
about-
of the S2000.
Have you driven one?
Yeah, of course. I love that car. I think it's really, really special. And I think Mark will probably say the same thing as he said on many of the podcasts. And I hate for speaking for him. It's just very, very difficult to find one that is nice
Yeah.
anymore. And the nice ones command a value where I think you're better off getting an ND.
Ooh,
Mm.
that's another
That's
another
a
good topic.
zinger.
Yeah.
Well, so I agree with you, and I would not even remotely try to
Would you
find
pay
a
like
nice one.
$40,000?
No.
Yeah.
I would buy probably like a pre-modified one to the extent that I could, and then like the rest of the car would just be throwing full track parts at it, and it would be borderline unstreetable, and I would be okay with that.
Hello.
I love the S2000 even in the stock configuration, AP1, AP2, AP1 stock I prefer obviously, but driving Eric's track prepped S2000, it was one of my all-time favorite cars.
Yeah,
It's like it's
same
up
here.
there. It's up there. It's just so.
Now
dialed.
imagine that car with like
More power.
350 wheel horsepower.
Yeah.
I'm the Bowling Green man. I'm going to come back, and I would say if there's a car you should drive as your track car all the time, nice C6 Z06. Have you driven one?
I've driven one on track.
Have you driven a modified one?
Yeah, it was
track?
modified with good coilovers.
Yeah.
It's an extremely fast car, and the
7-liter V8.
yeah, the
7,000
time I
RPM?
drove it, I did like 5 laps, and I did my best ever lap time at a track that I've been to probably.
But it
50
doesn't speak
times.
to you on an emotional level.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like the handling, it's like it feels a little bit like a blunt weapon. It has tons of grip, massive
Yeah.
tires, massive power. It'll lap a car faster than probably a well-tuned S2000.
But you don't have the nimble fun.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
when I get the back to slide in that car, my immediate reaction is let's just get it straight again.
The more that I drive cars from different countries, the more I can't help but see the culture of those countries come out in the cars. Like that, it's just so American. And then you go to Porsche, and if you don't go to their GT products, a lot of them are a little bit clinical.
Yeah.
And then you go to Japan, and hey, buddy. I mean, I love American cars for what they are.
Yeah.
But it's just a totally different flavor and experience than something like an S2000.
You guys have far more nuanced views of what. I just want a car to make me laugh. I guess it.
That's fair.
And for me, something that is either mechanically perfect, GT3 RS, GT3, or something that is just hysterical, like C7 Z06, C6 Z06, or the C8's a little bit more clinical, is what I enjoy.
Yeah.
Have you managed to spend a lot of time in other more track-focused front-rear cars?
Yeah. Modified BRZs, M3s.
And none of them speak to you the same way an S2000 does?
No, I wouldn't say that. I would say in terms of pure driving pleasure, like meaning I don't have to maintain it, I don't
Yeah.
have to buy it, I don't have to modify it. A really well modified E46 M3 speaks to me almost to the same level of an S2000. Obviously, it's not as nimble, but it has its advantages. It's longer wheelbase, easier to control the limit,
Yeah, the inline six.
more power, more
Better
torque,
steering.
better steering. Yeah, all those things. But S2000, the reason I say that's a more realistic, like 5-year kind of goal track car is because it's a Honda. Like stuff breaks, but you can just fix it.
Yeah, and it doesn't bankrupt you.
Yeah.
When you go back to better steering though, Eric's S2000, what he did with those spherical bushings and
true.
maxing out the caster, like that steering, I
Even
said,
with the EPS rack, it's much better.
oh dude, it was so good. It was
Yeah.
so good.
I think I talk about this in a few of my videos, but I think it's a lot of people overlook the importance of the steering wheel itself. Like a stock AP2 S2000 steering wheel. It has a big heavy airbag, kind of thick rimmed, glossy like leather that kind of gets crappy over time. You put a proper like Alcantara wrapped like 350 mil Momo in there, the steering feel immediately gets like 20% better.
True, true.
Yeah,
And what is the last car in the group?
that was my 3 cars, wasn't it?
You said
NSX,
RS6.
RS6,
Oh,
yeah,
forgive me.
S2000.
Apparently, I can't count.
2 of them would
Some
be Hondas.
engineer.
One thing I can't figure out is how come 0 out of your 3 cars had a B58?
In
I thought it was gonna be 3 for 3. Like
I
a
guess
Supra, an
X5, yeah.
M3,
M3.
or no, sorry, M340i.
I will say my love of that engine comes from being around them as much as I have been. Jokes aside, like my family cycled through X5s, and my significant other is going to end up in here in an X5 very shortly. I love that engine. I wish that drivetrain wasn't in the Supra's package. Otherwise, I would own that car. I don't fit in a Supra. I hate the whole like bunker appeal of that car, but I do think for the money, there is probably not. In fact, there isn't a faster car for the money on the track. I'm sure you probably may or may not agree.
You mean like brand new?
Brand new?
Yeah, it's a stupid fast car.
Yeah, you put real tires on that thing, you are flying.
Real tires and a wing.
Yeah, fix some of the rear stability problems, but yeah, no, that I'll probably end up with a B58 base car if I'm being honest. It just won't be
And
a sports
all is
car.
right with the world.
Yeah.
It just won't be a
Back to
sports car.
equilibrium.
Yeah, it just won't be a sports car, sadly. Yeah. So what's next? What's next?
All right. So, kind of in a similar flavor, if money was no object, and let's take it one step further, if none of us did what we do in terms of our car review thing, and we had all the time in the world to just drive the cars that we own, 3 cars.
Oh, I'll answer this one. My daily would probably be either a Panamera Turbo S. I just drove the new one again.
Over an RS6 Avant?
Yeah, active ride.
Okay.
Tremendous setup in that car. I can't really walk you through why it's good. I think I'm embargoed till October,
Oh.
but it's good. Let me rephrase that. Panamera 4 SE hybrid, something I can't talk about. The 6-cylinder variant, great car, active ride, whether it be in the Taycan or the Panameras, the most impressive electromechanical like suspension setup I've ever experienced in a luxury product. It'd be a great sports car suspension, but no brake dive, no squat under acceleration. It lifts itself out trying to get in and out of the car. If you need to load your dog or groceries in it or your kid,
I think some videos of
raises
this
the
came
car.
out.
Yeah,
It was like,
it's
taking over
incredible.
Reddit. People were like, "Holy crap!"
Yes,
This
it's
is wild.
incredible. That or a Sapphire. The Lucid Sapphire is probably one of the best luxury sedans I've ever driven.
I got to get behind the wheel.
Yeah, the car is. If you have $250,000 and you want to experience a great driving sedan, regardless of it being EV or not, that's really high on the list. Or weirdly, back to the CT5A Blackwing. I love that car. I love everything about that car. My dream, what's called "fuck you money" budget is. I spent a little bit of time with some of the engineers at Gordon Murray.
I know where this is going.
You know where this is going. The only car we can get here in the U.S. is the T33, and I spent a little.
You can't get the T50?
It's you can, but it's show and display.
Oh, I see.
The T33 is actually U.S. spec car. I spent some time with the engineers. That car looks. I've not driven it. Looks incredible. And then my daily SUV, or like the last car, if I have to have a true hauler, because to me, enough people that I've met, once you have kids or kids and pets at the same time, you sadly kind of need an SUV. And if I'm saying this is my 3-car garage, I have my sedan that I'm going to drive every single day, and the SUV, which will be like the snot and kids mobile, and the sports car. That's a hard one. All SUVs kind of don't feel that great to drive, but I'd get an X7 with a B58 and be okay with the depreciation curve. Don't need the V8.
Why not a Cayenne?
Size.
And no B58.
And no B58. But honestly, it's the size part.
Should have known the B58.
I think the Cayenne exists for a lot of people because it replaced the sports sedan. A lot,
Yeah.
like that, like an SUV, like an X5, right?
But you have a partner and
Yeah,
one
if
dog.
this is one dog. So if this is the three vehicles for us as a family unit, that's how I'm viewing this. So I don't need an SUV. If I had unlimited money, I'd be like a Jag E-Type or a Singer or something stupid as the third car. But realistically, if I had to buy an SUV, if you had to buy an SUV, I guess that's my question. What would you end up with?
I have very little experience with SUVs relative to you. Like probably the last SUV press car I had was an X6M, if you can even call that an SUV.
Yeah.
That thing was hysterical, but I do not want to own that vehicle in any way, shape, or form. So
Because I feel like if you one day end up with kids or more dogs, you're going to need something that's bigger. and
true.
The SUV is probably.
You don't think the RS6 Avant will get it done?
All right. I don't disagree that I think the RS6 Avant probably would swallow a car seat, but I've met enough people who have kids who, if you have a rear-facing or front-facing car seat and you've got to deal with getting the kids in and out of the car, the SUV or the minivan is what ends up winning, unfortunately. And I've just like lowered the mood here by like 30%, knowing that there's inevitability of probably an SUV in your life.
Probably depends on how tall you are. I think if you're a tall person, that may be harder. If you're shorter than
vertically efficient.
If you're vertically efficient, vertically challenged, whatever, maybe, I don't know. I feel like a wagon could totally fit that need. The only thing is that you're not going to be able to tow your track toy, right?
That's a fair point.
So
that is a very good point.
In my, if I did need to have a practical SUV or something similar, and I can't just say, oh, the fourth car is the girlfriend's car is going to be that, I would choose Cayenne just based on your reviews. I haven't actually driven one.
It's the best driving two-row SUV.
Yeah, you guys keep saying that it's the best when it comes to driving. It's not the best interior, it's not the best space or use of space, etc. But I like driving my CX-50 more than I expected. And I'm like, you know what? If I need something to just get from point A to point B,
I'm all about two-row SUVs. What do you like about your CX-50?
The steering.
The steering.
Yeah. Do you have a 23 or 24?
I got the 23. So they have
the pre-mid-cycle refresh.
heavier steering and a little bit sportier suspension. It's not a perfect vehicle by any means. But I'm like, you know what? I didn't think that a car of this size and shape could be enjoyable to drive.
Do you drive it or does your girlfriend drive it?
We both. I mean, when she visits, yeah.
Imaginary girlfriend off camera that you will not see. Does it bother you that a lot of like the ADAS systems, like lane keep assist and cruise control and
are not that great?
Yes.
They suck.
And the 24, they're a lot better now, right? So the 23, mine does not.
Marginally better.
At least it has lane keep.
It doesn't work past 45 miles an hour.
Or sorry, lane centering.
It does not work past 45 miles an hour.
In mine, it doesn't work past 45, but in the new one, it works at highway speeds too. Are you sure?
We have one as a long-termer. It does not work.
24?
Yeah, it freaks out. It tells you that you've drifted out of your lane and will not recenter you.
I had a 24 as well, but I feel like it was actually a life cycle impulse or whatever facelift. But that one for sure did not work.
Yeah, I know ours.
Yeah, the 23, like mine's like if I'm below 40, or I think it's 40, I think it'll work.
It'll work.
But then I
this
did
is
a
the most
comparison.
boring part of this podcast possible for everybody. But
anyways,
I
I like the thing, but based on how much I like this, I imagine that a Cayenne I would enjoy more.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah.
So I could see myself dealing something like that because then I could also tow a vehicle to the track, which I would love to do.
What are your other two?
Money, no objects.
Money, no objects.
I haven't even driven a lot of these cars, so
On paper.
I think a lot of people, myself included, would idolize the McLaren F1. I mean, growing up, that was the car.
Yeah.
Don't steal my answer.
Or even like the T50, right?
Yeah.
Which I didn't know was not available in the U.S. until now.
Technically, I mean, dude, if you can buy a T50, show and display is not a big deal, but
That's true.
The second vehicle, or I guess the third, would be. I've also idolized the LFA and Carrera GT, which are two cars I'll probably never be able to afford. But again, I haven't driven these, so I don't know how much how much is that worth?
I've seen enough other people driving them that I know I want them.
the LFA is a very, very special car. I will say the specialness to what they are costing now ratio
Doesn't quite make sense, right?
is difficult. We drove an STO, and Mark will tell you this too. That car is what, 300 grand, and a LFA is $1 million now.
Yeah.
It's not 3 STOs.
But is it more special than the STO?
The LFA, being honest, if my memory is not failing me when it comes to the way that car drives, it's all about one thing and one thing only: the
sound.
drivetrain, the sound. Because the gearbox isn't very good. In fact, I know someone else who works in the automotive industry who now works for a manufacturer. He drove the Nürburgring and the regular one in Germany, and all he remembers from an objective perspective, ignoring the story. What makes the LFA special is the sound in the story, but how it took 10 years and the manufacturing and the
Had to
engineering.
redo it and all
Yeah,
that stuff,
that's what's really cool about that car. It's not just another like, we're a company, we have a lot of money, here's a car for rich people, here's a passion project, but the actual driving part of it, most of its contemporaries at the same time, objectively, were better
Interesting.
driving
It came out at a
vehicles.
similar time as a 458, right?
Yeah.
And that gearbox is like far beyond that.
If you
And
look at
one thing too, when you're considering that, is
like
you
a
can't get a
GT2,
manual.
Yeah.
You can't get the car with a manual, and I think for a lot of us that's a big part of the driving experience.
Yeah.
Which again, me talking about Carrera GT versus LFA, Carrera GT, you can't get, of course. I mean, you are going to get that with manual. Does it even come with the
Nope,
PDK?
manual only.
It's manual only, right?
I know I sort of
But
derailed
I
you
do
there.
think the LFA sounds better.
Oh,
People go
does.
like, "Oh, the Carrera, no, the Carrera." I'm like,
I think it's the best sounding production car ever.
I agree.
yeah, probably. Yeah, I don't disagree with you.
Yeah. All right, so that's your three. Well, honestly, my special whatever weekend car was going to be the McLaren F1, but it's not like, can you make it street legal?
No,
in
the
the
McLaren
US?
F1, it's old enough. You can just buy one, drive around the street. If you have a cool $27 million burning a hole in your
I've
wallet.
never seen one. Like, I mean, I guess it's like
I've
you
seen
would
one
never see one.
in
But
the East Bay.
really?
Yeah.
Wow.
There are quite a few of them in the Chicagoland area.
Wow.
Certain gentleman owns quite a few of them that come to Autobahn Country Club every so often.
I think that seals the deal for me. That would definitely be one of the three. Daily. Actually, I'll come back to daily. I think for track car, this seems like a cop out answer, and especially because I haven't driven one. But
It's the NES 2000.
no, no, unfortunately not. Maybe if I had a 4-car garage, one of them would be an S2000. But I haven't driven this car, but a 992 3RS it's like everything I want in a track car.
Objectively, it's the best car I've driven.
Ever?
On track.
On track?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not surprised.
By a considerable margin. It holds our track record by like 2.5 seconds, I think.
Was that over the Z06, Z07?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Depending on who you ask, I mean, one of the things that you guys probably know well is track time's done at different times, at different temperatures.
Yeah.
Don't mean diddly, but it is the fastest time around our track, including grid lifetimes of any production car, even heavily modified production car. I think that there's only 2 people ever to lap Autobahn quicker in a not formula car or radical, and it's a gentleman who ran a cup car on slicks with a BOP restrictor pulled out of it and some other like crazy, not remotely a street car.
I'd be curious to see a Senna on the same tires in a track alignment versus a 992 3RS.
I would be too, but that is never going to happen.
Yeah, it's never gonna happen.
But of any mortal car I've driven, it's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, even I mean, I'm sure the Manti variant that's coming around is going to be
Even more crazy.
yeah.
Yeah.
But it's pretty spectacular. Sooner or later, I'm sure you're going to get to drive one, and it's going to blow your brain.
I mean, just the regular 992.1 GT3 already. It wasn't like.
You would think the jump is smaller. Like in my head, I always thought, GT3 RS.
Yeah.
It's massive.
Massive jump. Yeah. The aero itself, right?
Yep. And I mean, it's 50% spring rate on top.
Yeah.
Of the regular. The regular GT3 feels like because it is a mix between street and track. The 3RS is really just a track car.
Yeah.
Or a flex car if that's your thing.
Well, that's probably how most owners treat it.
Pretty much.
I honestly didn't give the daily much thought. Like
you have a helicopter if you can afford a McLaren F1. There you go.
Yeah.
Daily is a helicopter.
Yeah. But no, if I really did have a daily, like even if money was no object, I could not see myself driving something like insane, like a Rolls Royce or whatnot. I think something in the vein of an RS6 Avant would still, Like not specifically that car, but I'm sure there's something that would be comparable that I would enjoy driving and still be practical.
Imagining you in a Rolls Royce is actually,
Hilarious.
yeah, it's pretty funny.
Like, you are in the Bay Area, so it's not that hard to imagine.
It's true. That's true.
All right, I know that we've been spending a lot of time about garages and what we have and what we would have, and what I'm dying to know though, being a car reviewer, how has that changed your relationship to cars?
It's ruined it.
And
There, I've answered your
What-
question.
That's
what-
pretty straightforward.
what
Yeah.
unpopular opinions do you have? And like actually unpopular opinions do you have about cars?
I think it's not ruined it. It has focused me on what I like and what I don't like. I appreciate things far more than I used to in different ways, and my opinions on cars has dramatically shifted. I think some of it's due to the way we approach the car stuff, and also just learning a lot more. That's what we talked about off camera at dinner. You guys are still Dorothy in the beginning of The Wizard of Oz, and I am Dorothy near the end. She's seen behind the curtain, and I've met the wizard. It's a lot different. What's the best way to say this?
Well, I think me and Fenton already feel like from being at the beginning of Wizard of Oz,
Yeah,
our relationship to cars, we've discussed this off camera that it already has changed.
It has
like
changed
cars that
yeah.
we
quite
You've seen the
dramatically.
flying monkeys, but you
cars that
haven't.
we
Yeah,
cars that we idolized before, we're like, actually it doesn't really do anything for us anymore.
But it has nothing to do with like your perspective. I think is largely like the sense of being jaded comes from the industry kind of information.
Yeah.
For me and Kevin, I would like speaking on your behalf, but like at least for me, a lot of it is just the better cars that I drive. Like it makes everything below that just feel irrelevant. And every time I drive something new, like everything below that just gets knocked down a couple of pegs.
or just that expectation of like GT4 versus reality was so far removed.
Mm.
Maybe the first time I drove a GT4, I was like, oh my god, and then after driving a few other cars, I was like, you know what, great car, but based on what I like,
Yeah.
and I'm curious, like, what do you appreciate more now that you didn't earlier?
I think the thing I appreciate more about cars than I used to is the owners who buy them and what it means to them. I think what you guys are doing is you're driving cars in a vacuum, and you view them purely as an experience and where they rank in your own personal like pantheon of cars. And there are certain people that I know, and I'm sure you know, that can cycle in and out of any car they want, and they could drive for a little bit and move on to the next car, and that's their experience with it. I think that is for a while how I approached it. Something that Mark has taught me to do, and something that actually has spoken to me now quite a bit, doing a couple like owner schools, is I appreciate cars a lot more based upon the people who actually buy them. Like I used to hate the regular C8, and I still would take a C7 Grand Sport every single day over a base C8 or a C7 Z06 over a base C8. But knowing what that car now is and meeting the people who buy them, like going to the Spring Mountain School and seeing all the middle-aged, or not middle-aged, like 60-year-old men who buy that car, it is their first real sports car by every stretch of an imagination. It's basically a supercar for these people, and I don't mean that in a derogatory sense. I appreciate things differently versus just like, this is a great car. I can't get out of like the reviewer part of me where I'm like, because I have to review cars, it's not just like this how the car drives. How it sits in its segment is such a big part about how I appreciate them now, and it's not something I used to think about. Like I look at a Civic, even though it's worse than a 5 Series from a couple years ago, and some objective metric, I'm excited about that car existing, or like a 540 from
I can totally relate to that though. Like,
Yeah.
Actually, when I drove the Civic Si, I was like, dude, this is
a really great car
fucking great car.
for what it is.
Yeah.
Really impressive.
Do I want to own
At the
that
price
car?
point,
Yeah, no.
level of fun, performance. I mean, if I had a friend who was in the market for one, I'd be like, dude,
I'd
Yeah,
recommend
this-
it. Yeah,
this
I've
your car.
recommended that car
For
to
sure.
many people.
Yeah.
But you see what I mean? Like I think that's something that is changed being a car reviewer, is that I have learned to appreciate what its intended purpose is and where it sits in the market far greater. Like I used to not care about the X5 very much. That's a good example of that. But for a luxury SUV, what it does for the money is so impressive that I'm like, why wouldn't you buy that thing?
You guys compared it like like a value play
on a Cayenne.
towards a Cayenne, right?
But that's what I mean. There are cars like that now that I appreciate a lot more than I used to.
So
I know
one
it's-
thing that I've experienced that I'm curious if you guys have as well is, I mean, GT4 was pretty high on your list before.
yeah,
I mean,
I'd want
not
to
that long ago, it was my realistic, attainable dream car.
So when I was in med school, I was like, dude, GT4 is, I'm not, GT3 is too out of reach or whatever. GT4 is also mid-engine and therefore it's better and whatnot. That's what I used to believe, right? And then after driving a couple examples, I said, hey, great car, and hey, especially great on track, but where I'm mostly going to be driving, canyons and such, it doesn't have that X factor. It doesn't have maybe the transmission isn't quite how I like it, or the way that it rotates isn't quite as, it's not willing to dance. It's a little bit too stable. Like all those little things have completely removed that car from my list of like dream cars in the future, completely, which is not something that I expected doing these car reviews.
But most people drive the car in a vacuum. And you
When I first drove it, I was like, this is amazing.
Mhm.
And then after you drive a few more cars, some higher, some lower in terms of segment, you just get an idea as to what you like.
Yeah.
And people kind of tease me because I'm like the steering fetishist. I love steering, and that's a big part of the enjoyment. If a car doesn't have good steering, I just don't enjoy driving it hard as much. I mean, even my daily, I like to have good steering. And everyone's kind of different. Some people love the engine, the sound, the ride, whatever it may be. And I'm wondering if the cars that have stood out emotionally for you have shifted over the years, where maybe you used to love engine above all else, but now it's more ride or something like that.
It's a lot of like you guys meeting your heroes and realizing they don't drive as great as young me wish they drove.
Yeah.
There are certain cars that drive every bit as great as what I wanted what I wanted as a kid. But like E92, that was my dream attainable car when I was in high school. Like one day when I'm John Business, I'll buy an E92 coupe with a manual and it'll have a slick dash and it'll be like Christ's car. When you actually drive it, you're like, particularly now for what people ask for them, they're still great cars. I'm like, no, I'm
Not for 45 grand.
not 65,000 for a
Yeah.
really nice one, or 70 for a nice E92. It's nuts. And then you drive a lot of other cars that are similar. Like every single day, I'd buy a GT350 over that car. But the E92 in my brain was like mechanical perfection. I realized it's a great car, but it's not that exciting by modern standards, and it doesn't make me laugh. So I think cars that make me laugh more than anything else,
And what makes you laugh?
theater. It's a mix of cars that are perfect, make me laugh, like a GT3, or I recently drove a 992.2 GTS. Great experience.
There's a
Poor
lot
Mark
of
was
laughing
very
in that
sick.
video.
That car is unbelievably capable. It's very, very competent, and best modern EPS.
I've also noticed a very high correlation between slip angle and your laugh.
Yeah, for
Yeah,
sure.
fair point.
For sure.
Not always, but very high correlation.
Oversteer equals happiness.
There's
I'm
okay.
thinking like the IS 500 video right now.
Oversteer's funny.
I guess with like the silver black.
Yeah,
jackets,
yeah.
you know?
the bongos.
Yeah.
The reason I like going sideways is I feel like I'm getting away with something. It's that like mischievous part of you that you're really not. It's making you slower. It's destroying tires for no reason, and you're dramatically increasing your likelihood of an accident. But if it goes well, I felt like I got away with something. So it's that.
I think all three of us can agree on that.
Yeah.
Like getting a little bit
The
of
slipping.
sideways action is just,
It's like cheating death to some extent.
it gives you excitement. It makes you feel alive.
My hero growing up as a kid on TV was Tiff Needell.
Oh yeah, I still love that guy.
Yeah, fifth gear Tiff Needell. Like I always feel like he's the underrated hero of like automotive TV, and watching him slide around cars, I'm like, I want to be able to do that. So part of that, and the car reviews that I have the most fun with, because you guys shoot in a vacuum, right? It's just you guys in the car.
That's right.
The most fun I have is driving with somebody else. Like either,
Making Mark poo his pants.
I genuinely felt bad about that, but making him laugh or
Or talking
vice
about the
versa.
992.2.
Yeah,
in that
yeah.
case, but just making him laugh in cars is very, very joyful for me. The worst I've put that guy through was the Lucid Sapphire video. those guys, the Lucid folks, are some of the nicest people in the world. I love the engineers, John, Esther, David, all those guys are great. But I felt like a high expectation that we don't shoot a shitty video. And the problem with EVs, from a video perspective, is they don't make any noise.
Not
The
exciting.
theater, yeah.
Yeah. So they're like David Lickfold, who a very senior engineer there. He worked on some of my other favorite car, one of my other favorite cars in the world, the F-Type.
Mm.
In a past life, he was at JLR and he worked on that car. And the first time I drove the Sapphire, I'm like, "Will this go sideways?" He's like, "It'll go sideways." I'm like, "Okay, okay." I'm thinking about in the back of my head what this is going to mean for video. Mark's like, "Yeah, go sideways. We have this telephoto lens. Look at these big slides." I'm like, "All right." The first thing we did before we drifted the car, I think, was shoot the drive segment. And Mark's like, "Go nuts." I'm like, "Okay." And I genuinely, Mark was like, "I'm gonna die." I don't think maybe we kept it in the video or not. After the drive segment, he just walked away out of the car. Like we pulled back into the pits. He got out of the car,
Pale as
walked
a
into the
ghost.
classroom, pale as a ghost, and just lied on the floor.
His beef and cheddar coming
yeah,
up.
yeah, pretty much. Yeah, pure sweat. I shouldn't find that deeply entertaining that I terrorized my poor friend, but a little funny. When Mark got out of the 992.2 GTS in Spain, the head of PR, one of the heads of PR of Porsche Germany, and then our rep, Frank, looked at him and burst out laughing when he got out of the car. He's just white as a ghost, just looking like he's not having a good time. But yeah, that's...
Yeah.
The fun part for me is my own enjoyment. I feel like I get away with something, and then like the having someone else in the car to either enjoy it with you or in some cases not enjoy it so much.
Yeah, yeah.
I almost had more fun with him driving in the canyon because he was having a good time versus me on the track. Obviously, I'm not going to laugh like an idiot while he's driving and trying to have commentary, but yeah.
I appreciate that. I was trying to not ask that during dinner because I feel like if you have the conversation twice, I wanted to ask here, so I really appreciate that. That's insightful.
Yeah, having someone else in the car. I don't like monologuing. Like you guys are probably much better at it than I am. I don't like monologuing. So having a conversation with somebody is much.
It's very
easier.
dependent on who you have in the car, though,
Yeah.
I will say. Because when I started my YouTube channel, I always had the owner ride with me, just for myself to feel more kind of secure that like if something did happen and it was an accident and it wasn't my fault, I would have evidence of it and such. But
it's also kind of the one take kind of format.
The one take format, I can ask the owner about the mods and whatnot, the ownership experience. But a lot of times the owners just make it very awkward. They make it very awkward. So I think for you it's a little different because like if
Not
it's
everyone
Mark,
can be like Thomas and James.
yeah. Like the dynamic sometimes feels forced and that sort of thing. But if you have like PR guys who do this for a living, it's a little bit of a different experience, I would think.
I think having the other person in the car, as hopefully you can tell, Mark and I we don't play a character. There's not like an activation when we got a camera. We're every bit as miserable in real life. And we're just grumpy Midwesterners, I guess. But the not being a character and just knowing what you have to cover with somebody and just making it a Q&A is, I find, far more helpful.
Yeah.
And like the two-person dynamic versus me just like, oh, this car drives great. I'm like, why does it drive great? Having that dynamic and the back and forth, I think, is helpful because you don't have to agree. You can say a car steers well, and I can say it steers bad. It doesn't really matter. Just explain why you feel that way, and leave it up to your audience to determine whether or not you're right or wrong. It's sort of always been our approach.
Yeah, I like that approach.
I don't know how you feel about it. I'm not the expert here. I'm just some asshole on your couch waiting to swap my laundry into the dryer.
Right.
No, this is great. This is really insightful. I have another follow-up question on this.
Yeah.
Unpopular opinions.
Car enthusiasts, and it's not an unpopular opinion, but car enthusiasts don't know squat about what it takes to actually make a car, and most of the engineers are both grateful for you guys and frustrated, and I feel somewhere in between. There's this idea that this is a Dave Coleman Mazda joke that is absolutely true because he used to be a journalist. we listen to car enthusiasts, the only things we would make are diesel brown wagons, and we'd be out of business tomorrow.
Manual.
Manual
Manual
wagons, forgive
diesel
me.
brown wagons.
Yep, and there's a lot of truth to that. The other part of it too is everything's too expensive. And while yes, everything is too expensive, it's the inflation to buying power thing that people don't understand. Like, I'm not a political person, but if you just play the inflation calculator game, cars are not more expensive than they used to be. We just, as a country, have less buying power than we used to.
Mhm.
A 997 or 996 convertible is way more fucking money in that era than it is today. That car was like
Yeah.
$96,000.
Yeah, so to translate to the viewers who may not understand the buying power terminology, what you're essentially saying, correct me if I'm wrong, is that the wages have not kept up with inflation, such that if you look at the price of something like the NA Miata versus modern Miata, maybe it's 20K to 40K, it's actually the same price for inflation, but you're not making twice the amount of money in 2024 versus 1990.
Yeah, like 911 is a good example of that. I mean, there are some jumps, but that's the hard part from an OEM perspective is they need to make money. Yes, they're greedy, but they need to make money. And if they don't make money, you won't have cars. So it's that a balance part of it. The disposability of cars, people like cars are more disposable than they've ever been. While I don't disagree that cars are basically impossible to repair, it's not the manufacturers bending to, like, oh, we want to do this, screw you. A lot of it is, how do we still be, how can we still make performance cars with all the modern regulations that exist? It's not the manufacturer's fault. It's not like BMW went woke, they went hybrid, or Porsche. Well, thanks, Obama. It's they want to. The engineers just want to make a great car, and this is the confines that they live in, and they have to play around that rule book. It's like racing. An engineer explained this to me, and I agree with it. You start the season of a race, and you're like, all right, these are the rules that the FIA or whatever governing body gave me. Then they have to build a car that fit those rules, and they are going to build the best thing they can that fits within the rules that exist. Because as a consumer, you're expecting, and part of it is our fault as media. Every next thing is going to be better. FL5 has to be faster than an FK8.
Yeah.
And what people are finding out is that better is not always what they actually prefer.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
People may not always want the better refinement, right? They may actually want less refinement.
But how do you sell that as a manufacturer?
Oh no, that's the thing. That's why we all go to used cars. Like that's not the direction that people are going to be going.
But if we only bought used cars, the car industry wouldn't exist.
They'd be out of business. Yeah.
So it's not as easy as a lot of people make it out to be. A lot of the engineers who are making these cars, and forgive me if I sound like an OEM apologist, they fucking love their jobs, and they do love cars. You meet a lot of people who are really, really passionate about it.
Well, here's the thing. I actually think that the opinion that you hold is probably the opinion that a lot of us hold, which is that kudos to a lot of these manufacturers that are doing their best, and it's like,
don't get me wrong, there are a lot of bad cars out there, but
that's the situation, that's the regulations, etc. But you see the Mazda Miata, you see the 911, you see a lot of these vehicles, and you say, this is amazing. And even on my channel, I say, guys, let's not be cynical. We should be grateful for so many things that are going right. But the reason why it feels that way is that when you go online, what do you see on social media? What do you see getting upvoted? It's the cynicism. So most people aren't actually that cynical and that negative about cars and all that stuff, but you just hear that more. But I talked to Fenton, I talked to you, and it's like, hey, you know what? This is great. Like, look at this 992.2. This is cool. But online, you're going to get a mixed bag. And with the negativity bias that humans have, I think that we just can't put too much weight into what we see online. I don't think that people, I'd like to think, maybe I'm wrong, but I'd like to think that most car enthusiasts, they're a little bit more level-headed, and they can say, hey, you know what? Kudos to the manufacturers who are really trying, like the Miata, the 911, the enthusiast vehicles. I feel that we should be very grateful for all of them.
Well, I think the other thing is, like, not everyone's lucky enough to be able to experience new vehicles. Like the average Joe driving like an older car, even if they're an enthusiast, like, most likely they don't have a $150,000 911 or whatever. And so it's easy to think that whatever that's new and hot and all over, Motor Trend, it's easy to poo-poo that because it's so out of reach to some extent.
But I think part of it too is people idolize cars that they sleep on the cars that they would be happy with. I think the first gen FRS, okay, the motor, I get it. but there's so much good about that car. Same with the GR86 and the BRZ and the Miata. Like there are so many and SS1L. Like there's so many cars that are at affordable price points that we aren't grateful enough for.
I agree.
Don't disagree
agree.
with you remotely. I know that's not the most exciting thing to bring up on podcast, a bunch of people agreeing with one another, but I agree. You're
Cars that
smart too.
How about cars that you believe are underrated?
Oh man,
Let's end on that because I know this guy needs to get some sleep.
swap some laundry over and then
That
get some
too.
sleep. Yeah. As I'm thinking about that in the back of my head, let's
You said underrated, right? Not
Underrated.
Underrated.
SS1LE. Nobody bought it. Therefore,
I'm considering getting one next year. By the way.
that's what's going to replace the GR Corolla for us. But
Really? A used one.
yeah,
But
you can't buy one
discontinued,
anymore.
yeah.
Yeah. I think that car's amazing. Oh man, what else? It's going to be a bunch of American cars. The C6 Grand Sport, I think, is a great car. I think a lot of people sleep on the early F80s. I think they're pretty good cars for what they are. I mean, the people who buy them are usually not the nicest human beings that exist on the planet. A lot of people with very obnoxious burble tunes.
Yeah.
But the Elantra N, I think, is the most underrated performance car you can currently buy.
I really enjoy that car too.
I think it's the best car you can buy new for the money. If you're a young enthusiast and you're like, man, Type R is $45,000, or an Integra Type S is $55,000, or a Miata is $40,000, you can get a car with a 10-year warranty. Yes, the dealers are crappy, but you'll be able to find one, I'm sure. The Elantra N is the most underrated and arguably best cheap car. Well,
Sub
cheap.
35, right?
Yeah, it's like 30. Chris or PA or Chinface, if you watch our live streams, he's buying one, and it does. If you need one car, you have a reasonable job, but you don't want to bend yourself over. It's the best car you can buy.
Hmm.
And I don't like Hyundais, so and I think it's the best like affordable car.
I remember when we did the Elantra, not the facelifted one, but the old one versus the GR Corolla. That's kind of the conclusion I came away with
Yeah.
too. Like driving
It's
dynamics wise,
much more engaging,
and it's got a huge back seat,
very practical, great steering
good steering.
for front wheel drive.
Yeah.
Great steering. Do we have time for overrated?
Overrated.
Well,
Man.
let's hear your underrated first.
Oh God, I didn't even think about what I think is underrated. I think the first gen twins is really up there. I think there's so much good about that car, and just because of the engine and that torque dip, people sleep on it. I think use it, look at it as a way to force you to improve your driver skill set such that you need to drive around the torque dip.
Yeah.
Keep the revs high, and it sounds not great when you're pushing it and the vibrations and all that stuff. I get it, but there's
Yeah.
so much good about that car.
For
And
10 or 12 grand, right?
I sold mine for 10K, and it was 70,000 miles, 2013. It was my only car for 9 years. For 9 years.
Yeah, that's
And
impressive.
I could move in it. It was super practical. Like, great
Yeah.
great car.
What about you?
I agree with both of you. First of all, the only one I can think of off the top of my mind, and I wouldn't even call this underrated, but I would say like amongst certain like a pretty vocal group of people like hate this car, and I sort of was one of them until I drove it on track specifically, and that's just a regular C8 Z51. Because looking at that car on paper, especially like after Throttle House reviewed it, and they like it had some massive understeer in the
Yeah,
video,
ours was all screwed up too.
which might have been more alignment than anything. I think.
We got ours from Extreme Experience. They aligned it. There was something wrong with the front of that car.
Okay. But when I drove one on track, it had coilovers, granted, but that was pretty much it. And it was like the fastest car I'd ever lapped at Sonoma.
It's they're good cars. They
Yeah.
really are. And, you really feel like people don't like those cars as a whole, or
Maybe it's just some of the forums that I was looking at.
there's a professor out in Chicago. His name's Ken. Really nice guy. He teaches at U of C, so where fun goes to die, University of Chicago.
Okay.
I think he's an economics professor. He has like 90 track days or something stupid on his C8, and he drives in the
Wow.
winter, and he loves that thing. Loves that thing. So I don't know why I brought that up, but it's not really an
Yeah.
underrated car
That's
per
true.
se.
That's true.
I don't think a lot of people hate on the way it drives
just hate
as
the way it-
much.
The way it
A-
looks.
Yeah, the
after
way it looks is
After the
questionable.
understeering kind of fiasco at the beginning, it's ugly as fuck.
Yeah. I can't disagree with that.
As someone who owns a C8, it's not my favorite looking
Yeah.
car.
All right. So
Overrated.
Overrated.
Man, it's such like a mixed bag there. What are cars that are really hyped up in your eyes?
I have one that comes right to mind, and I might piss some people off by saying this, but I think the GR Corolla, in most situations, is
Oh,
incredibly overrated.
yeah.
I think if you're driving it on a wet road or a snowy road, which I have not done,
Yeah, it's amazing.
it's amazing. But that the GR4 all-wheel drive system on a grippy surface, especially on a dry racetrack, that car is just a complete blunt instrument compared to Elantra and Civic Type R.
Someone who owns one, I will largely agree with you. It's not a very good track car stock. It's a great car modified, but not a great car stock. I don't really feel like it's. Uh, Again, my perception what overrated is rough because everything that's happened in that car and the media scape in the last like 3 months has been really bad. The two cars that caught
Oh,
Yep.
fire,
yeah.
all-wheel
Denied
drive systems
warranty,
denying
yeah.
warranty. I'm trying to think of a car that's really overrated. I hate to say it, the GT3 and the 3RS are not overrated cars. There's some like social media thing that keeps popping up. It's some like short that keeps popping up on my phone. Like the 3RS is overrated. I'm like, dude, I just drove one on track.
Oh, I haven't seen that.
It is not overrated. It is a very good car. Some influencer saying that. Man,
I guess all cars are just great.
uh, what's a really overrated car? I feel bad for like not having a good answer for you on that.
What about
one.
you, Kevin?
I mean, you already know one that I've brought up many times. I'm gonna get many haters from this, but DE5 FL5. It just like doesn't do much for me.
You should drive one on mine on track.
After driving a
one day.
DC2, I'm like, oh my god, yes, give me.
DC2. Just keep in mind you're comparing a
20-year-old car.
90s car.
Yeah.
All I'm saying is that was the first time. The DC2 was the first time I drove a front-wheel drive vehicle that I was like, oh my god, front-wheel drive can be really fun.
Mm-hmm.
And for the FL5 and DE5, I'm like, wow, very competent, very capable, very impressive engineering, very. But I'm not having that much fun, personally. Driving on the canyons.
Yeah.
Driving on the
Canyon
canyons.
speeds, I would kind of agree. It's a point and shoot car.
Overrated car. Here you go. 4RS. That'll be my like weird takeaway. Overrated car. I love that car. It is a great car. It is a feels car, not a dynamically great car.
It's too stiff for the road.
It's strut front.
Yeah.
That's always going to be the problem with that car. Not having dynamic camber in the front and the back of the car. If you talk to a German development driver who helped set it up, he'll tell you the same thing. And if you talk to the engineers who work on the Cayman, they'll tell you the same thing. The problem with that car is that it physically doesn't get dynamic camber. So as you drive the car, like if you're a journalist or you're not pushing it 10/10, so you don't drive really hard for 20-minute sessions,
Feels amazing.
it feels great. Once you start driving the car harder, is you had a Cayman, right?
I had a 987.
Yeah, still strut front rear.
Yeah.
The front will fall off and then the back will fall off, and then you're driving around the front and the rear of the car. That car, despite sounding tremendous and having a great gearbox and looking the way it does, really the Caymans as a whole not being. That's why I didn't buy a GT4 and I got a Z06 instead. That platform is great on the street, not a great track platform.
Oh, you like the GT4 on the street?
Yeah, I think it's fine. Well, compared to a Z06, and so I like the manual. I like the fact that the noise is all real, none of it's fake. I like the steering better. I like that the fact that the brake pedal's real. It's on what GM calls it e-boost. But on the track, the chassis of the C8 is way better than the Cayman's platform. And I'm John
Primarily
Porsche
because of the
it's
suspension. Yeah.
physically not strut front and rear.
If they made it double wishbone all around, do you think?
Yeah, I'm
It'd
sure
be like the
the
best car ever.
4RS would be incredible, but
Yeah.
it's just a problem with the platform. The issue is, so the Cayman is MMB, and I can't remember what it used to be called when it was 991 platform. The reason they'll never make it double wishbone. They never tried to make it double wishbone in the front. Is the rear packaging wise, they couldn't put wishbones in it. If you look at it being mid-engine versus rear engine, there wasn't enough space to package in the double wishbones in the back. And if you made it double wishbone in the front and you kept it strut in the back, having dynamic camber gain only in the front of a car doesn't do great things for oversteer characteristics.
Yeah, super spiky.
Yeah, it would end up like the Alpha 4C. So there's your controversial opinion.
I like that. But to follow up on the GT4, On street, you like going sideways. You like throttle-induced oversteer.
Yeah.
Harder to do so in the Cayman GT4. Do you? I personally find it a little bit clinical for my taste. Do you find the GT4 too clinical?
Man. Compared to what else is competing against in this class, not really. New. Used, you have a billion options, but new, the Emira is more, to your point, exciting on the street than the GT4 is. But I don't like the Emira on the track. That's why, like, I would still get a GT4, and I know it's going to work.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't have a lot of faith in the Emira actually working. I would take a 911 over a Cayman every single day, not because of the styling or whatever. I just think the platform, even the older ones, is better. You multi-link in the back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think drifting not that it's a worthwhile reason to buy a car, but there's nothing easier and more fun to power slide than a rear engine car. You back it, you literally have to back the car in and you use it as a pendulum, and the car will do crazy power slides. And it's really easy to control. Like, I shouldn't be able to drift a GT3 RS at my skill level at like 80, 90 mile an hour entry speeds, and then go have a good time, Jack.
All right.
Yeah. I'm sorry. Is there anything else you guys want to add?
That was awesome, man. That was great.
That wraps it up. Yeah, no, that was super insightful. I would say go follow Jack on SavageGeese, but you already do.
If they're following your channel, they're definitely following SavageGeese.
Well,
yeah.
Hopefully you can do this with someone who's more insightful than me, and that is Mark in the future. Just come out to Chicago. We'll do live stream.
I would love to.
We'll do live stream. It'll be different than this, where your viewers can ask questions or ours can, and
yeah,
you can sit there while we raw dog it like you do on a plane instead of stare at a screen for 5 hours.
Raw dog on a plane?
But just yeah. Have you heard that expression on planes?
No,
raw dogging flights?
No.
It's the people who literally sit there and they don't have earphones in. They don't read a book. They just stare at the map of the flight, and they just sit there for 5 or 6 or 14 hours.
I wasn't expecting raw dogging to be.
Yeah, I thought it was something else.
Don't worry about it. When you think raw dogging, you and I, you get more action than I do. When I think about it, it's me flying back and forth on an airplane, staring at a screen. All right. So
on that note, guys, I think it's time to dry some laundry and go to sleep.
All right. Sounds good.
Thanks, guys.
That was great.
You really guys not heard that expression?
No, I've never heard that.
That's incredible.